Yesterday, actually, it was Monday. There was Roger Goodell takes the stage, and Roger Goodell starts talking about just the state of the NFL in general. He ends up dropping a couple of nuggets out there that people I didn't expect him to drop. By the way, there will be a Friday football game from Brazil next year in the NFL, so they will kick off the season Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. So they're just going to own that first week with the NFL. So that was mentioned, and the NFL expansion, of course, is still valid to the stuff that we talk about, Adam. There will be, there's legalized gambling in other parts of the world, so certainly something that isn't irrelevant to our conversation. But asked about gambling pretty often, asked about gambling multiple times, and through that, a little bit of information was revealed as well.
Just to add to the thought that you just mentioned there, Matt, what is the newest, hottest gambling market in the world right now? That would be Brazil. So, yeah it's certainly relevant to our conversation. You know what's interesting about this Roger Goodell press conference beyond what he actually discussed? For the first time, we saw that this was a really hand-picked group of media, that Roger Goodell did not allow for all credentialed media to come in and potentially ask questions, and there was some consternation, shall we say, from a number of the media members that Goodell was trying to cherry pick the questions. For our purposes, I thought it was interesting that he still answered 4 gambling questions, right? Like there were still lots of queries about what we talk about here. And one of the nuggets that he dropped was that essentially there have been 24 NFL employees who have been fired for gambling. That's the way that Roger Goodell put it, in addition to talking about the players who've been disciplined for gambling and suspended and so on. And, we know the most famous of those comes from the DFS case involving Amit Patel with the Jaguars. But it also means that the NFL has had a number of employment situations that have ended that we have not heard as much about for folks who have been I'm not sure exactly whether it's gambling directly on the NFL. He didn't really get directly into that, but we certainly see that the NFL, because it has such a prominent place not only in American sports but in American culture, has to take a forward-facing role in talking about this, right? Now, give them credit. They have made up their own ads about having a game plan. You've seen the ones with Kurt Warner talking about responsible gambling, and they pointed out, and they are right, that they are the only ones who have done that. But I also think proportionally to the amount of gambling that is done on the NFL as opposed to other sports, they probably need to be out there taking that kind of role in talking about responsible gambling. So, it's the first Super Bowl in Las Vegas. It used to be an event with the Super Bowl that you couldn't even advertise for the city of Las Vegas, and now the event is in Las Vegas. And so I think it's notable that we're having these discussions about gambling in the NFL.
Absolutely. A couple of thoughts on this for me. First off, good. I don't like anyone losing their job, but at the same time, that also lets us know that they're taking this seriously, and whenever impropriety is found, they are taking the steps necessary to make sure that those people are dealt with. And two, I want to clear up just something that I've seen as part of kind of the scuttlebutt of the conversation of all of this, where they're going like, well, I mean, what do you expect? Like, it's legalized, and, people are going to gamble, and it was always a rule that you could not gamble if you worked for the NFL. That's what I don't think people understand, that this was not a new rule once gambling became legalized across the United States. Like, it was always known when you took a job with the NFL or any of these sports leagues that you were not allowed to gamble on that. So this is like, I think people think that these are like new rules, and it's just more front and center now that we have a legalized market, and we talk about it a little bit more. And as you mentioned, Adam, it's more front facing, and it's more front and center in these conversations. But this has always been a rule. So it's not like catching these people off guard or whatever, or anything like that, right? I mean, this is something you knew what you were signing up for. You knew what you were getting into when you took the job along the way. So again, sympathy for me is at a fairly small level, because this wasn't some like, oh, I had no idea. It's like, no, man, it doesn't matter if you've been working there a year, which I'm sure they told you a ton, or you've been working there 10 years, because it's still been the same rules the whole time.
Matt, I think the marijuana comparison is pretty apt here, right? Where certain states have chosen to legalize marijuana, And certain workplaces still say, no, you are not allowed to have marijuana in your system if we drug test you, right? A private company can still make its own rules. Now, certain states have taken action against that. But the point of the matter is, just because it is legal writ large out there somewhere does not mean that your company isn't going to have its own rules that you have to abide by in order to be employed by that company. And so, yes, it was always the case when marijuana wasn't legal anywhere and when sports betting wasn't legal anywhere but Nevada. It's the same thing when it comes to that. Andy Reid did one of his press availabilities right before we recorded here today on Wednesday and was asked by Contessa Brewer from CNBC, what have your players been told about gambling? And Andy Reid said that the league representative basically, as soon as the Chiefs got off the plane, like the first meeting that they had, talked to them about all the security protocols, and one of them was reminding them, you are not allowed to gamble at any time while you are in Las Vegas. So even when you have what seems like the most obvious of situations, which is players at the Super Bowl are not allowed to gamble, the league still kind of taking the extra step to make sure everybody has it very clearly put in their face.